Colette's Corner.
Hi, this is Colette from Colette Sewing Machines Plus in Yorkton, and welcome to this week's Colette's Corner. Easter's right around the corner, and you know how we always want to make those cute little things for our grandkids? Well, I came across this pattern, and it's from Susie C. Shore Designs, and it is the cutest bunny placemats you can imagine. So I thought this would be a fun project for us to do for Easter. So I've already made one up here for you, and you can see how absolutely adorable it is. You can make it with no pockets on the ears, or you can make it with the pockets, and you can slide their silverware in the pockets, and it just makes it even that much cuter than it was to start with. So any little one would love to wake up Easter morning and find that sitting at their breakfast nook and ready to have their breakfast. So today I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to do some applique, we're going to do some blanket stitching, we're going to fuse some fusible fleece on. We're going to do a little bit of everything on this piece here. So let's get started. We're just going to move that off to the side. So what you're going to do to start with is you're going to cut out all of the pieces that it's telling you to cut in the pattern. So you're going to have two faces. Okay, one for the back, one for the front. You're going to have two sets of ears, and the only thing that you have to make sure you remember when you're cutting these ears out is we have ears on our left and our right hand side. So you need to make sure that you're cutting and flipping over your pattern piece when you're cutting them, because of course you need a front and a back to each one. So if you cut them all on the one side, they're only going to fit on the one side. So make sure that you flip them over, and one's for the right and one's for the left. Okay, you're also going to cut this overlay piece that I have in the center here, and that is going to be cut out using a fusible web. So you're going to first trace it onto the paper of your fusible web. So here's one that I like to use. So you've got your paper on one side and you've got your sticky on the other side. So you're going to trace this out onto here. You're going to fuse it onto the back of your yellow piece of fabric, and make sure you do it on the back. I've done lots of times where I've laid it down and it was on the wrong side. So make sure you fuse it onto the back. Then you're going to cut it out to be exact size. Peel your paper off the back, lay it where it needs to go, and fuse it into position. And so that's what you're going to do to prepare your ears. So, and then as well, you need your two cheeks, your two eyes, and your cute little nose. I think I have them upside down. There we go. And you've got your sweet little nose as well. So these here are going to get fused into place as well. And then we're also going to draw a little face on him, and we're going to stitch his face on. But what we're going to do first is I'm going to take you, oh, and we forgot, if you want to put the pockets on, you cut your pockets, and remember when you're cutting them, she's going to tell you this in the pattern, but make sure you're laying your pattern piece on the fold so that your top is a finished top. If you forget to do that, you can always stitch them together as well, but it's kind of nice just to have that nice fold along the top. So don't forget about cutting your little pockets if you need the pockets, and be cutting them on the fold. So I'm going to first show you how to do a blanket stitch. Now there's several different things that you can do to finish your edge here. You can zigzag it if you want to. You can do the blanket stitch. You can do a straight stitch and have a raw edge applique. It's whatever you prefer to do. But on mine here, I chose to do the blanket stitch. I really like the blanket stitch. I use it a lot. So I set my machine up for this particular width and this length and whatnot. If you do not have a machine that has the blanket stitch on it, then go to a satin stitch or go to your straight stitch. So any of them are fine. It's whatever you personally want to see. So we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and I am going to show you how to do a blanket stitch. Okay, so what I've done here is I've picked the blanket stitch that I wanted. On this machine there are several different blanket stitches. Some of them are heavier, some of them are lighter. In fact, I have a little sample here just to kind of show you the differences as to, you can see that one there would give you a double stitch, and it's really quite a heavy one. That one's a double one as well, and then this here is the single one here. I really like the single one when I'm doing something like this because I don't want it to be overly heavy. So I like to test it out first on a piece of fabric just to make sure that I'm not using something that is going to be really bulky. So that's my choice of a stitch for this one. What I chose to do for myself personally is I did it 3.5 millimeters wide, and I did it 1 millimeter in distance apart from. So what this one's going to do is it's actually going to go 1, 2, 3, swing over, 1, 2, 3, swing over. And I didn't want a big space in between my swing over. So what I did is I shortened that up and I made it 1 so that there's still 3 stitches in there, but they're not this far apart, they're closer. Okay, so that's what I personally like. You do whatever is visually attractive to you. Okay, another really important thing to do when you are doing stitches like this is to use the proper foot. Okay, so this foot right here is the regular foot that's on my sewing machine all the time. This one here is what's called an open toe foot. And whenever I'm doing anything like this, I always use my open toe foot. If you look at the bottom of this foot here, it is completely flat. And if you look at the bottom of this one, it has a little indentation in it, and that accepts the height of all the thread that you're putting into your space, which allows the machine to still flow along nicely. And it makes the stitch look nicer because it's not being forced along by being pushed down with this foot right here. So always make sure that you put on the proper foot. I also love this one because it's so wide open that I can easily see what I'm doing. You can see this here, if I'm working with this one, it still has that clear space there, but you're still looking through the clear, whereas this here, it's wide open and very easy to use. So this is the foot that I am going to use on this particular machine. And you can get an open toe foot from most any machine out on the market. Just whatever your brand is, go and check that wherever your dealer is and check and see what they have for that particular foot. Okay, the next thing that you have to make sure is when I'm coming down with my needle, I want my needle to land right on the outside edge and then come in and come back out. I don't want it sitting on my yellow, and I do not want it sitting far back on my white. I want it to fall right off on that curve there so that you really don't see those 3 stitches that it's going to make before it makes the catches onto your fabric. So you want to make sure that you're nice and close to that space. So what I always do is I will come in and I will actually line it up, and I just want to do a little sample here first just to make sure that my swing is going correct for me. I want to just double check and make sure that my swing is right. Okay, so now my swing is right. It's going to start on the outside and go to the inside. So now I'm just going to hit my scissors there, and you can see when I was originally doing it, my needle was sitting over here, so you know that it already did the swing this way and it was going to come back that way. So it would have landed right in the middle of my fabric instead of on the edge. So now I know that my swing is going to go towards my foot because you can see all that distance from your needle. So I'm just going to line my needle up right along that edge there, and I am going to stitch away. And you see how I'm sticking right along the edge, and then I'm just going to make a stop here so that I can do just a slightest little bit of a turn because I'm wanting to slowly come around this corner. I'm going to slow this down just a bit because I'm using my hand control and not my foot. Well, I can go a little faster than that. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I am just watching where I'm going, and you see how I'm just gently curving it around my corner as I go. And I'm going to stop for just a second. Would you please hand me my glasses? Thank you. I'm having trouble seeing here, ladies. Okay, so I'm going to give it a tiny little curve again, and I am going to start my stitching. And I just gently help it around the corner. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling, I'm not doing anything that could possibly disrupt what I'm doing. We're just going to continue around this whole bunny ear, and it just gives it such a pretty finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this on, and I am going to come back and I'm going to show you how to sew your ears together. Okay, so now I'm done the blanket stitching on the ear, and you can see how I was right along the complete edge of it here, and then it swung over, so you can't even see that pink. Even though there was 3 stitches there, you can't see those stitches unless you actually bent the fabric over and looked for them. So that's what your goal is, to stay on just on the edge of your fabric. You don't want to be on the yellow, and you don't want to be too far away on your white as well. So that's how you do to make sure your blanket stitch looks good. Okay, so now that we've got it all, got all of our blanket stitching on there, if we intend on putting the little pockets onto our ears, this is now where we need to attach our pockets. So you would just put your pocket on there. I'm just going to take it to the machine and just do a simple little tack down stitch there, like just a basting stitch, just to hold this into position. And then I'm going to take the back part of my ear, and I'm just going to lay it on top, and I'm going to stitch around the whole outside edge, and of course leave this opening here. So I'm going to run to the sewing machine, and I'm going to do that quickly, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've added my lining to the back of my ears. So what I like to do is just come in and trim these curves in here nice and close, so that when you turn it, there's not a bunch of bulk in there, and then you get a nice smooth ear out of it. So you don't want to cut too close so that your stitching comes apart, but just cutting around on that curve like this makes it really nice for turning. Okay, I'm just going to trim this little one off of here a bit as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do, actually I'm just going to do a little bit of this inside corner too. And what we need to do to this corner is, after we trim this, is we're just going to snip into this corner a little bit. For turning. So we're just going to snip in like this. Again, don't snip into your stitching. There. Okay. So now we're going to take this lovely kitchen utensil, which is a spoon. Okay, and this is going to help you turn this. So what you're going to do first is you're just going to make a little well for yourself here, and then you're going to stick the end of this stick into the well, and you're just going to start pushing. And when it starts to come out the other end, you can just give it a pull, and then you can get rid of your spoon. So we just need it to come out the end here. We can get rid of this spoon here, and then we can just start pulling back on this ear, and it will come through here. There we go. There we go. And then we're going to make sure that our little pocket is on the proper side. And you can even put the lip of the front of the spoon in there and just slide it nicely around your corners. And then we'll take this over to the pressing table, and you will press it, and you have yourself a bunny ear. Okay, now we're going to have the fun part, and we're going to actually put on the eyes and the mouth and all of that kind of stuff. So what I did, so that I could make myself a little template, is I just took a piece of, this is just a tearaway, and I drew my piece onto the tearaway, so that now I have a little guide to follow as to where I'm going to set everything on my bunny. So all I did was laid this piece on here, and then I also drew a little guide for the mouth and the nose. So I know on my little template here that this is where my mouth is going to go. So all I do is pick this up, lay it underneath exactly where, make sure it's all lined up, exactly where my mouth needs to go. And then if I just lift this back, I can just draw around the outside edge, and I've already got my placement for the mouth of my bunny. So I'm just going to grab a pen here, and I'm just going to use one that is a erasable one. It was on my table here. Oh, it's right here. Okay, so I'm just going to use one of these Frixion pens because it's going to disappear, and we're going to have stitched over top of it anyways, so you're definitely not going to see it. So all I do here is I just draw myself the outline of my mouth here, and I'm going to do that same thing on the other side here. Okay. And now I'm just going to go to my machine, and I'm just going to use a straight stitch, and I'm just going to go and I'm going to stitch this onto my face so that I then can go in and I can add my cheeks and my eyes and whatnot. So we're going to head off to the machine, and I'm going to stitch this down. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch my face. Now you can use a triple stitch if you choose to. I kind of like using just the regular straight stitch. I put it at 2.0, and then I'm just going to bring my foot down here, make sure my needle's lined up. It's lined up nicely, and I'm just going to stitch around this mouth here. And you see how I'm just kind of guiding it as I go. And it makes a much smoother line if you can just continue to do it all at once. If you haven't hit your line exactly, don't worry about it. We're going to press this line away, and absolutely nobody but you will know that you weren't exactly on that line. Okay, and then we're just going to come back this way, and we're going to stitch around this side. And you can see by having that open toe, it just makes it so much easier to see what you're doing. So there's my little mouth there. Now if I want to, I can go over top of it one more time with my stitching, but I think I might be happy with it just the way it is there. Okay, so I'll meet you back at the table, at the pressing station, and I'll show you how to put the cheeks and stuff on. Okay, so now I've stitched the mouth of our bunny. So I'm going to take that template that I made, and I'm going to lay it down again on top of my bunny. Just make sure everything is lined up really good, because you want it to be nice and straight. You don't want her to have a lopsided head. And I'm going to take and I'm going to put my cheeks on first, and all you need to do is just score your paper and then just peel the paper off the back. Oh, come on. It's easier than it looks. Okay, so then I'm just going to lift up my template here, and I'm going to lay my cheek down, and you can see now it's in the proper position. So I'm just going to lift back, and this particular one that I'm using gets put on with steam. So I'm just going to steam that on, and you can see her cheek now is already in position. And then I can do the same thing with her eye. And I'm just going to flip this back and slide her eye underneath. Put her into position. And then we have the black of her eye. I'm going to score that one. And set that one underneath. And I'm just going to push it a little ways in. There we go. And again, we're just going to steam it into position. And then I'm just going to flip this over to the other side and do the same thing all over again. And first take our paper off. this underneath till it's in the right place, and we might as well just do her eye at the same time. I keep calling it a her, but it could be a he. Whatever your little one is what it's going to be. And then put the black of the eye on. Okay. Actually, this one goes on this side because he's looking that way. We don't want him looking out this way. And then I'm just going to steam that off. Steam this one on. And there you go. That's the face right there. That is ready to go. And then we're going to add his little, or her little nose. And we're going to make sure we have it up in the right direction. Just put the nose on. There you go. And then if you just take your pen, do you want to hand me the pen? And you're just going to draw the eyebrows in however you want them to look. And then you're going to stitch those in your black thread as well. You're going to go around and you're going to do all of your blanket stitching around each and every one of your pieces, and then it's ready to put the entire thing together. So we're going to just go back to the cutting table, and I'm just going to show you what it'll look like when it's done. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to complete your other ear. I just have one done here, so you're going to complete your other ear. And on your template, you'll see that it had 2 positioning marks, and you want to make 2 little snips on either side so that you know exactly where you're going to place your ears. So once you have everything all stitched the way you want it, you're then going to place your ears on so that they are in the proper position, because when you think of them this way, you're going to flip it like this, and that's how it's going to sit. And then you're going to take them and you're going to put them inside here so that you can take your back and stitch all the way around. You're going to leave a little opening at the bottom, turn it right side out, and you're going to have one amazing little placemat for those little ones of yours. So have a happy Easter, and I'll see you on the next Colette's Corner. Bye for now.